What's up, everybody? This is Chris Nichols, and you're listening to an episode of the Nichols&Dimez show. Enjoy. Hey guys, I hope everyone's having a great ending to 2023. I certainly am excited for the new year. I hope you are as well. 2024 has got some big things for us. I wanted to put together this episode as a year in review episode, which basically presents a highlight snippet from each guest that I've had on the show in 2023. This will be part one of that, so we will cover each guest from the first half of 2023 in this episode, and then there will be a part two for the second half of 2023. Hopefully this serves as a great celebration for all the guests that came onto the Nichols&Dimez show in 2023 and the valuable things they had to share. It was beyond an amazing experience for me to connect with all of these people and to learn from them. And like I said, I am stoked to continue to grow this show and to connect with more people in greater ways moving forward. Please enjoy. First up is Maximo Mandl, house music producer, DJ, and real estate agent. So would you say it's more the branding that he puts together and the marketing of himself as an artist and as a person, or the specific sound within the genre?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And honestly, man, like I've learned so much more like along the way, because I really thought it was just your music, but it's really not. I mean, It's a big part of it. Don't get me wrong. I mean, that's what your fans are going to be listening to you for, is your music, but they also want to see who you are as like a person. They want to get to know you, like whether it's on Instagram or TikTok or whatever, right? I mean, so much of it is like your personal brand behind it. You selling merchandise, you know, posting funny stuff like on your stories, or just like keeping engagement, right? With your fan base. So there's just so much more nowadays than just the music, for better or for worse. I mean, that's just how it is. But what's also cool is it's connected everything on so much like more of a hyper connected level to where like I'm chatting with these artists on Instagram that are massive, and then they're like asking me for songs, I'm asking them for songs. And I think that's what's really cool now, is more independent labels are coming up. Whereas before it was just like Capitol Records, Atlantic, you know, these, you know, Columbia, like these huge record labels that I just, you know, personally would probably never get on. But now there's just so many, there's like hundreds of underground labels that are stoked to listen to your demos. And it's really cool because a lot of these big artists started with those smaller labels and built their way up. Even Calvin Harris was like, mentioned something I think on Instagram the other day, made a post, and it was talking about how he wrote a letter back in the day to Defected Records, kind of before the internet. I mean, there's probably the internet, but it was still like, here's my demos in a letter, and it was handwritten, and they wrote him back. They're like, hey man,
crazy.
they're like, hey Calvin, great tunes, not for us right now. And it was just like, you know, for him now on the level he's at, it's like, of course, but that's the same thing, right? Like everybody gets denied, and you're gonna have to go through those 99 no's maybe to get that one yes that's gonna put you on that next level, right?
Next up, Kimmie Alessi, CEO and founder of skincare brand and studio Salt and Rind. If you could pick one entrepreneurial life hack that might be different from the mainstream belief, what would you say that is?
I would say find your balance and be open to pivot. You know, I think everybody, just like you, I'm sure you go on all of these, you know, podcasts, Spotify, listen to motivational speeches, YouTube, you name it. And it's like, work harder, be better than the competition. You know, you're sleeping, your competition's up working, and it's pressure. And, you know, in 24 hours in a day, you can be efficient in a much smaller window. So I always say find your balance, because you can work. I used to work 7 days a week, 12 to 16 hour days. And I built my business fast, but like at what cost? I have no idea what else I did. I don't. With my first business, I was like, get in profit. That's all I cared about. During that same time frame, I got a divorce. Not saying that had anything to do with it, But what kind of a life was that? I mean, it was just hustle, grind, hustle, grind. And during, your reign of success, you can say, hey, now I have the nice car, now I have the home, now I can go on vacations. But like, what substance was there to your life? Did you miss out on opportunities to see your family? Did you miss out on opportunities to see your friends and birthday parties and baby showers, you name it, whatever? But I'm really big on finding a balance, because I think you can be much more efficient with your time. When you're working, be on 200, 300, 500%. Work your ass off. 4 hours. Then go live your life.
Yep.
You'll be much more efficient, because you're also, when you spend a whole day on and off working, you get exhausted. You're just kind of sitting there staring at your computer for a few hours. It's not efficient at all. So if you really just kind of set your pace, work really hard during a small time frame, and then be done and be completely turned off, you will have such a better balance. You'll be more equipped for when struggles do happen. You'll have more time to live your life, because the entire purpose behind entrepreneurship is to have a job to give you life.
Yeah.
People forget about that part.
Yep.
You don't live to work.
Next up, Rast Fledderjohn, founder and CEO of SiteRight, an all-in-one sales and marketing software platform and service for small businesses.
It just kept going. Like by Saturday, it was like another 20,000. Then it was another 30,000. Then it was another 30,000. Another 30,000. Like every single day I was getting like 20, 30,000 followers, and it ended up capping out around 120 something.
Just from
the single one video.
Unbelievable.
And the video capped out around 17 million views on Instagram.
17 million views.
Yeah.
And you were at a wedding? What was
I was at a wedding in Seattle, and I was just showing my friends. I was like, dude, what is going on right now?
Dude, holy shit.
Because this was like the same account that I'd follow, that like my family follows, and like everyone follows.
Yeah, your personal Instagram.
All of a sudden it just starts like going just bananas.
Yeah.
And the crazy part is, in that video that went viral, I mentioned SiteRight.
Wow.
So overnight, we went from doing cold email and cold outbound to, I had to turn it all off, because I had the calendar was fully booked out.
Jeez.
We had we had hundreds and hundreds of new free trial signups.
Whoa.
It was just like, whoa.
Yeah.
Like, hold the phone. Like, this is a true game-changing like model, in the sense of like, I just posted a video, now we have money. Like, I was like, what is going on?
Next up, Frankie Krygsman, personal trainer and life coach and owner of Kinetic Krygs. What type of physical training would you say you specialize in?
It's funny. I like to train a certain way, and I train people a certain way. The name of that way, I guess I referenced it as functional or dynamic training.
Yeah, there we go.
The reason why is because, we do things in a way that is easy now as a society, and it doesn't force you to be in the moment. So if I just have you sit there and curl your, do some bicep curls, we could have a conversation, and there's not too much thinking involved in that, right? Like it's like that. But now if I have you lunge, twist on one leg, and then press up as you come up, you're doing multiple things at once. You're not going to be able to talk to me and do that at the same time unless you train yourself to do that. Yeah. What that does is it creates new neural pathways from your brain to the body, called the brain to the body, or brain to the muscle connection. When you just focus on one muscle group, those thoughtless movements, which I still do, don't get me wrong, curls for the girls all day, but the multi-plane functional movements is where you really get engaged. You get into that flow state where you're present in the moment. You're not thinking about the time. You're not thinking about what you're doing later, what you did earlier. You're there, present in the moment.
Next up, Diane Smith, prolific side gig entrepreneur.
But the event aspect, which also came from that with like the picnics and people doing people's birthdays and stuff like that, or engagements, kind of blew up. And so I started doing that in people's backyards because, again, we weren't doing anything. So I was doing that in people's backyards. And then I think that was like June, July. And then in August, I was like, you know what? I really like miss music and stuff. And so I started this thing called Yard Jams.
Yeah.
And that was like, I got all these musicians who've been dying to sing because they've been stuck at home for so long.
And this was still 2020, right?
This is still 2020 at my parents' house.
Okay.
So this is August 2020. And I literally put a big carpet out front of my house. I called different local taco trucks, like any food truck, and like collaborate with all of them. And then just like sent a flyer to all my neighbors. I was like, hey, I'm doing Yard Jams if you guys want to join. And it was like so many people showed up. All these different musicians came, and I made like a little stage on my front lawn, and all my neighbors showed up. We put a taco truck on my...
No way.
Yeah, it was like the coolest thing ever. And it actually...
So you basically just hosted these like neighborhood concerts in your front yard.
Yeah, exactly. That's how like the event thing started. It was so much fun.
Next up, Devin O'Brien, owner of Modern Updates Construction and founder of Ilinks, a positive lifestyle clothing line.
Probably the last thing I'd say is like the mainstream wants you to believe that you need to spend all this money and, you know, pay all these people to do all this stuff and set up your website and pay 10 grand to do this and go to this course for 10 grand and, you know, have this brand new shiny truck with all the vinyl graphics with your business on it. You know, like the mainstream wants you kind of think all that stuff. But I just think that's not true. And, you know, it does help to have a really nice website and a really nice truck, but it's definitely not necessary. I think, you know, having a good attitude and showing up on time is probably the main entrepreneurial hack that I would, you know, advise anyone to have.
That's a good
first
one.
and foremost.
Yeah, just being consistent and being a person of your word, following through with your commitments.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and that probably turns into a lot of other things that people maybe don't think about right away. Like, don't overpromise, don't try to do too much, or you know, say you're. I mean, do you kind of see what I'm trying to say here? Like, yeah. I mean, kind of know like what you're capable of and what you're not capable of, and kind of be honest with people. I think that's super important, and but just overall, just, you know, treat your customers as you would treat, you know, your mom or your dad or your family and some of your closest friends, and what I've found is that they'll kind of treat you the same. So nice, man. Next up, John Lahlouh, musician and key participant at Lahlouh Inc. You said something very interesting about how you got your groove with writing, because it was hard for a while, you said, and then you got your groove moving.
Yeah.
Can you describe that process?
I think it wasn't until a couple of years ago that I'd actually felt something was worth writing down. And so having done it enough times now, I feel like I'm getting better at articulating, you know, lyrics, better at articulating what I'm trying to get out and having it sound good. And it's been a process, but I'm happy with where it's going. And the biggest thing is that I don't do this for anyone but myself. I'm always worried about what someone's gonna think of me when they see one of my videos or hear one of my lines, hear my lyrics, hear my songs, and what they might think. And I just remind myself, like, just who gives a shit? Just, you know, no one cares.
Right.
You know, someone might think it's stupid, but like that is the only thing that will stop me from making music. And so I've had to learn to not care about anything else, not care about what people think, and just see where this takes me, you know, and just continue to express myself through the writing.
Next up, Ha Sloan, founder of Embodied Alignment and relationship and healing coach. The pattern I'm seeing in your journey is there tends to be this linkage of identity and who you are with something. Whether it's the way your body looks, whether it's your sports or your athletic performance in some way, whether it's your job and the perception that comes with that career path, right? And I've struggled with the exact same thing, or an injury. I've struggled with the exact same thing in each one of those categories, right? Whether it was water polo, and if that's not going well, then it's like, who am I, right? It's like, no, I'm Chris Nichols, not Chris Nichols, a water polo player, and you're right? Same thing for you, of course, and that was like what you went all in on, is maximizing that message of, no, I'm Ha Sloan, and then these are other things that I like to do, right?
Yeah. And I would even challenge it to go one step further and like even release the identity of I am Ha Sloan.
Wow.
And just be like, I just am. I'm not even the person that I was born into being. Like, I personally believe that we exist before we come into this world, and then we will continue existing after. And so I'm on this journey to continue remembering that infinite, eternal essence of myself, rather than being identified with Taiha and all of the emotion and thought and beliefs and, you know, pain that I can get so identified with. I'm like learning to rest as this greater awareness of like, I'm just watching Taiha go through this weird thing that she's going through, you know? And, you know, the freedom that comes with that. Because if you take a moment and you just shift from being like you over there and me over here, and you just kind of float above us, and you like, watch, this is happening. Chris is over there. I'm over here, right? We are the awareness of ourselves all the time. We are not our thoughts, emotions, or any of the other things that happen. And with that space, everything else is less, like, everything's less intense, less painful, less grabby, right? It's like we can just watch the cosmic comedy that all of this is.
I like that, cosmic comedy.
And it's a much more fun way to live, and it's not easy to when we've gone through a lot of trauma and pain that makes us feel really like intensely, right? If we have intense emotions or intense thought patterns that like, right, react to life in certain ways, then it's going to be harder. And that's why this work that I do with helping people release their trapped emotions and heal their trauma, it helps them reach that place of awareness in a much more graceful and easy way.
Next up, Thomas Hopkins, previous professional water polo player and prolific entrepreneur and marketing executive. If you could mention one entrepreneurial life hack that is different from the mainstream belief, what would you pick?
This one's easy for me. I developed a framework for success that I called my house. Like, I don't have a good name for it. I'm in marketing, so I should have a good name for it, but it's my house for living a fulfilling life. It's the 6 F's. With a house, right, you've got your foundation, you've got your 4 walls, and you've got your roof. Everybody's like, Simon Sinek will say, find your why, and that'll like sort everything out. I actually don't think that's the case. I think as a dad or as a man or as a woman, like, you have different hats you wear in life, and each one of those things you're doing, you want to do the best in it. You want to grow, you want to contribute more. But so what I did is I said, okay, well, what are those things that you need to do? And so I set up this house framework so I can remember it. So the foundation is your fertility, it's your health, it's your vitality, it's how do you feel, it's your, you know, are you working out, are you staying healthy, are you eating well, are you you know, are you in shape? Without that, if you know, it's very hard to do well in the rest of your life if you're like constantly struggling with your health, if you're sick all the time, as an example. Then the 4 walls are I have as your fun, your function, your faith, and your fun, function, faith, and let me just give me a second.
Is it another F? Family?
It is another F. Family.
There
Nailed
we go. Nice.
So those are all really important, right? And each of those have a different metric for success, right? I'm not going to go and have a great family by saying I'm going to make a lot of money. It's like, no, that's a different thing. Having a great family means spending quality time together. It means having dinner together. It means going on a date with your wife every week or every other week. It means making sure you're taking time for vacation with them. It means, you know, spending time over Christmas. Like, that's family. You know, whereas your functions, like, what are you doing for your work? Like, what are you doing for your main job, or what, you know, to put food on the table, to provide for your family? And what is that? So, and then, you know, your faith is like, what are you doing spirituality wise? Like, you have to have some spiritual sense, whether it's meditation, whether you're a yogi or you're a Christian or Jewish, like something, having some level of faith is important. And then, you know, the last one, fun. You got to have a day where you take time for fun. You got to have something where it's like, I make sure that once a month I go and do something for me that doesn't have to do with work, doesn't have to. And so then, and then the roof of the house is financials. So like, you can't do all of those things. You can't focus on your family, your faith, your fun, your, you know, your function if like you're constantly trying to like you can't make ends meet. So you have to have a financial system in place, and you have to have metrics for success for finance that allows you to actually, you know, manage to spend time on those other things. So
next up, Ciaran Flanagan, founder and CEO of Energize, a cold plunge company. What specifically made you want to do that kind of stuff? Things that are focused on recovery and wellness overall?
Good question. So yeah, I before I got into all that, I was like calling a bunch of people. I was like, I don't know what to do. Like, what business should I start? I was thinking about nootropics, supplements, like sleep and stuff, like a bunch of random things. So I ended up like ringing a guy that had a weighted blanket company. And he was selling at the time. I was like, so like, tell me about it. Like, why are you selling? Like, any advice? What's your one piece of advice for me? And he's like, make sure you love your customer. Because I'm selling this company because it's full of Karens, and like I'm dealing with Karens every day, and I just don't want to deal with it anymore. So I was like, right, I'm into fitness, I'm into wellness, I want to serve that customer. So
that's an awesome point. That's so cool.
So yeah, that's what I love the most about my company right now. I'm speaking to people that are into fitness. They're like crushing it in their business or like their job. So, and they're just looking after themselves.
God, dude, that's huge, man. That's actually huge for me personally. Love your customer, because that's what's going to keep you passionate about something, because of the people you're working with, people you're serving. Next up, Monroe Herington, luxury real estate connoisseur.
And one of my clients actually was the first $1 million plus property I sold. He gave me, you know, incredible advice. And what he told me, I said, is actually funny. Right after the sale, this guy pulls up. He's in a McLaren. Pulled up in a different car every time I see him. He was out of Reno. He was in import-export business.
Got it.
And he's super humble, super chill guy. His name was Bob. And Bob would pull up in almost a different exotic car every time I saw him. And I'm like, this guy is cool, you know? And he took me for a ride in his McLaren. And I remember just asking him, I'm like, if you could give me one piece of advice, just one piece of advice, I don't need, my brain, my 20-year-old brain, I can't implement 50 things. Like, just give me one piece of advice as a new business person, you know, getting into the game. I was 20 or 21. And he just looked at me. He's like, in his car, he just looks at me and he says, focus. Focus. He's like, he's like, pick something and get really good at it. And he's like, there's going to be so many different people throwing so many different potentials and possible opportunities at you, but you just have to focus, because if you do that and you get really good at something and so like I probably took that to the extreme, and I was like, focus, like open houses, that's it, you know.
Dude, okay.
But you know, he was probably maybe saying like focus on like becoming a really good real estate, but it didn't matter, because like my brain, like I got out of that what I needed to get out of that. So that was my focus.
Next up, Julian Bradley, real estate investor, speaker, and peak performance coach.
One of the key things that I think a lot of people can do right now that can help just put everything into picture is understanding your value. Understanding your values and understanding your value. What are your values? Is it freedom? Is it impact? Is it love? Is it connection? Is it security? What are these values that you hold to be true?
How do people figure this out about themselves?
Books, self-awareness, and just asking yourself those questions. I mean, Tony Robbins does a really great exercise about values that you can look up, but being clear about your values makes it a lot clearer to make decisions. The clearer you are about your values, the easier it is to make decisions. When you make easy decisions that are in alignment with your values, now you're starting to get momentum, and it just clears up a lot of space. Yeah. On the same token, on the other end, when you say, what is your value? A lot of times people look at it and it's like, okay, what value do I have to give to this person? I look at it like this. Why don't you create a happy meal, like a value meal, of all the different things that you add value in people's lives? You can go to each industry, all the specific skills that you're able to do, right? And look and say, okay, I'm able to add value in these areas. I'm able to help people with marketing. I'm able to help people with real estate coaching, Airbnb coaching, these different things. You ask yourself, what are the things specifically that I'm very able to help people with and add value? What are some of the things that I'm able to do specifically to help people in their lives or in their business and their value? And write this list down, make it clear. So that way, when you go to a networking event, when you go to a meeting, when you meet someone in a specific industry, now you're able to say, hey, I can help you with this. I can help you with this. Yeah. Even if you don't have an exact way to help somebody, now when you grow your network and you know somebody who's very valuable at doing this, and you meet someone who needs this, now you can make that connection, be seen as the person connecting you to, and that is value.
Next up, Josh Timpany, videographer specializing in fitness and lifestyle content. Because it's not like you were working, making money at this time, right? You were a kid.
I learned how to make money really fucking young, dude. Like,
okay, let's hear about this.
Do you want to hear it? All right. Yes. So the very first time that I learned it, you're gonna love this. This is my very first time making money and making it from just figuring it out. I was a little skater kid, like trying to escape the house, and I'd always go to the skate park. And I noticed that they had reduced bus passes for people that are under 18. They were $1.25. The adult ones were $2.50. But if you look at the bus passes, they were identical. All you had to do is just show your student ID or whatever, you get the reduced one. So I would go and buy a reduced one, hop on the bus, and I would wait until I saw a full bus stop. I'd be the first one to get off that bus, and then I'd get into the back of the line and be like, yo, do you want to like buy my bus pass for $2? You save 50 cents, I make 75.
No way.
And then I'd do it over and over, and I spent, I think on one of the days I spent like a solid 8-hour a day doing it. I don't want to exaggerate about how much money I made, but I made like a lot of money for being 13 years old.
Wow.
Yeah.
In Phoenix.
In Phoenix, like summertime, super hot. I was like, screw it. It was like you can only skate so much when it's 115 out, you know? So you're like, all right, well, I want to go hop on the bus because there's some air conditioning on the bus, like a little bit of like cool air. Yeah. So you ride the bus, get a little cool air, and make some money off of some random adults that you see.
And people were like cool with buying it from you?
They thought it was funny. They're like, yeah, of course. They're saving 50 cents. Why not? Yeah.
Next up, Chris Sortino, discipline and mindset coach.
I looked myself in the mirror and asked, where is this getting me?
Yeah.
Right? Like, I identify as somebody who wants to be a happier, healthier human being every single day, who shows up and does the work, who does the hard things. Am I casting votes in favor or against that higher self that I have in my head when I participate in certain activities? Right? And like, that's the beginning of my program. Right? We fill out a scorecard where we run through, and again, it takes two here, right? You got to be super transparent and super honest with me about the things that you do each day, including but not limited to, I wake up every day and I scroll on social media for 30 minutes. Like, man, I heard something Jay Shetty said the other day, and it's like, would you wake up and invite 70,000 people into your bed with you at 6 o'clock in the morning?
That's a good one right there, man.
I know I wouldn't, right?
That's an unreal way to look at it.
Yeah.
Next up, Rob Rast, founder and CEO of FLX Bike and Miles Board, electric bike and skateboard companies.
I gave him my motorcycle to cruise around Beijing, and he comes back and he's like, dude, there's electric scooters everywhere here. Wouldn't these be cool to sell to the West? And
because this is kind of before they were a thing in the West.
Yeah, and not like electric razor scooters, but like electric, like you see the Chinese delivery guys on them, like a Vespa
moped
kind of style moped. Yeah. And I'd had a ton of history of bicycles that I didn't get into, but I had tried an e-bike out when I was doing the aviation job for the first time. It was $7,000 for this e-bike, dude. It was cool, but $7,000.
Yeah, you tried it, like you tested it out, but didn't buy it.
Yeah, it's like one of our the managers of this fuel company had it, and we went on this bike ride, and this dude was like 50 years old and fat, and I was in the best shape of my life, and he smoked me on this bike.
Oh, man.
I was on a regular bike.
Right.
I'm like, dude, this is cool, but it's $7,000.
Yeah.
And so he brought up the e-scooter thing. I told him about the e-bikes. We got to talking like, why don't we try and find an e-bike out here in China that we can bring to the West? And we went looking. We went out to some factories. We were making calls. Started really researching e-bikes, and we couldn't find anything good, dude. We could not find a single e-bike that was like something we would want to ride ourselves. But we saw like, this is a really cool battery. And this motor is pretty strong. And hey, this factory said they would build us any bike we want. They'll prototype it for us. And it was at that point we're like, dude, like, why don't we just make the bike of our dreams? Why don't we make something really cool here? Something that could outperform and look better than that $7,000 bike. Yeah. And we could sell for $1,000. And we launched in March of 2016. And these first bikes, they raised $2 million in 2 months. Wow. And it was an incredible way to start a company. After spinning my wheels with the wine and then having this success with the bikes, dude. Whoa. It was really incredible.
Next up, Jesse Smith, 5-time Olympian, silver medalist, and captain of the U.S. men's water polo team. Also founder of Swirl Inc., Qatari, and E-Cubed.
Unlike any other Olympics, Tokyo, you weren't allowed to leave the village.
That's insane.
And so the best experience is having my kid watch me play Olympics. Giving my kid a hug in London. I had 2 kids there.
Oh, man.
That was incredible. So incredible because like it's so much work.
That's cool.
Super cool. But
your oldest too, right?
Yeah. But what was amazing in Tokyo was that the last night, everyone had taken their COVID test, and so they knew they could fly home because you take your test and now anything, you're not getting tested until you get on a plane. You're out of there, and every day we're getting COVID tests, spitting it in a jar. Jeez. It was really stressful because if you test positive, you can't compete. Yeah, you worked 4 years, you went through everything and some arbitrary thing, So the last night, all the lights in the entire village were on. Yeah. Every country, because the village is set up that each apartment building is a different country, and they're all playing music and dancing, and it was really like a very festive environment. And normally, if you win, if you lose, you leave the village, you go out to celebrate, you go out to talk about it, you leave. For sure, yeah. And it was the first time ever that it was like that for us.
It's like a big dorm room party.
It was a very festive, happy environment.
Yeah. That's so cool.
And just seeing that, even though it's like, I'm just there like kind of hanging out in my own space. And I think that experience was cool though, just unusual, it was really unusual. And it's crazy because that's my last Olympics.
Next up, Noah Belkhous, founder and CEO of Planted Materials and Greenwater Labs.
The one thing that I did have consistently through my life was being told that if I want to put my mind to something, I can achieve it, right? And I think I know so many people that have an idea or want to make something happen, but they lack the self-confidence to be able to like just, risk it for the biscuit, like send it.
And to just even expand your mind.
Exactly. Yeah. And so I think throughout my life, especially once I got to the Silicon Valley and at Santa Clara, I was out talking to all these entrepreneurs all the time. Like, how did you get to be where you are today? Like, what did it take? What were you doing? And through that, I probably spoke to 20 to 50 people and just have this like Sean O'Keefe, Professor O'Keefe would say, like all these gold nuggets in my mind that are like, okay, here's a principle that I need to adopt so that I can set myself up for success down the line.
Yeah. No, that's awesome, and that's definitely some value for the audience. There is the way Noah, proactively networked with entrepreneurs in the area where we were going to school, and the way he sought out Zoom early stage before it was even 100 employees, and he joined the company, and they even said, no, you're too young, and he still got in. So he found that, and then of course Zoom blew up, and 2020 came around, it blew up like crazy. Next up, Connor Schwab, founding team member of Sandy Vans, a luxury camping van business, and founder of Journey Vitae, a self-development program.
I wanted to reconnect with my energizers, like the entrepreneurs out there, the inspiring people who were starting businesses and doing exciting things, and get those people together in a room. So I wrote up this whole curriculum. I knew all the 30 people that I wanted to invite to the first cohort, and I had it all drawn up in 2 days. I wrote up this whole curriculum. I barely slept.
Wow.
And I was just sat there, and I was super scared and nervous, and didn't want to hit send on the email. And then I was going through another program at the time with a woman that I met in South Africa. And the program that she was in, her program also helped inspire mine and give the blueprint and everything. So she was pivotal to this getting off the ground. But she had this week called Walk Through Fear. And it was about what's something that you really want that you're not taking action on. And literally the day I, 3 days had passed and I hadn't sent the email, and then that comes up in the program I was taking online. It was Walk Through Fear.
Got it.
So I was like, damn it. All right, I guess I have to do this.
Yeah. Next up, Asante Sefa-Boakye, CEO and founder of Black Star Polo, a nonprofit designed to give aquatic opportunities to underserved Africans and African Americans. Dude, you just show up?
Pulled up, bro.
You just pulled up?
Pulled up. I just pulled up with a ball.
A water polo ball.
Yeah,
They're like, what's
pulled up
this?
with the ball, man. They're like, what's that? I was like, no, it's not a football, because they would start playing football with it. And I said, David, football. And then just swimming in the water with it, going to the deep side.
Yeah.
That's what got everyone's attention, because people in Ghana and Africa, when you go to the deep side, you don't come back because you drown.
Oh, okay.
Everybody had the story of yo, dude.
Whoa.
If you're going out far, the spirit's going to take you, or you're going to drown, and we'll never see you again. Yeah. So when I would start going out far in the ocean, I would do a buoy swim here in the U.S., people on the shores were panicking, bro.
Yeah.
Screaming, no, he's gone.
Man, you blew their mind.
Completely blew their mind.
Because they're like, you look like them. Yeah. They look like you, and they're like, yo. And
you're doing what they tell us not to do.
Yeah.
You're doing what they even beat us because we try to do. Wow. Like some of the villages, they would beat their kids. Saying, don't you dare go near the water ever again.
No way.
It's crazy. So it's like, hey. Yeah. Like, wait a second. He's doing it. He's coming back. And it's like, yeah, and you can do it too. Come on, let's go. And then just making a super, super safe introduction. Luckily, some of the coaches out there, they are lifeguards. They do work in water safety. So they're all on standby. And just making sure the kids know that when they go out, they can come back.
Wow. Incredible, man.
It's crazy. It's like, and I tell this now, thinking about representation, when I go out and I swam in the deep side, they were looking at me as if they were watching Michael Jackson moonwalk. Whoa. They're like, what? Yeah. Dude, this how do you do this? And I'm like, dude, it's simple, and you can do it too. Yeah. What you mean I can do it too? And then bam, that's it.
And so, wow. So you really inspired them.
Bro, it's a trip. I do not give myself the credit, and I've yet to really sit and reflect in that statement that I've inspired a lot of people. It just hasn't hit, but yeah, absolutely.
Next up, Luis Valenzuela, real estate investor.
When I first was trying to buy houses here, I was like everybody else. I was offering. The market was crazy at that time. Houses were going for like 50, 100, 150, 200K over asking price. So the first 8 houses I offered on, I got outbid, and I was getting outbid by dual income corporate tech families, right? Mom and dad, they both work. They have 2 incomes. They're looking for a house. And at that time, I was like, then something's wrong here. I'm going to keep getting outbid. I have to change my strategy. So what I did was I pulled up a crime map. Okay. And I looked at what is the closest, most dangerous place worst crime area that I can move to close to downtown, because I know this is going to change, it's going to gentrify. So I actually tried changing my search to look on that area.
Wow.
And right before the week before I purchased this house, there was a stabbing on the corner.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
When I first moved in, there was like prostitutes walking up and down the streets. It was like a McDonald's drive-through at like 3 a.m. at night. And there's homelessness, there was all kinds of stuff. It was like kind of dirty, but I knew, right, this is something you can plan for these things. You can be proactive, because I was a buyer that had different needs than other buyers, right? So other people valued this place less than I did, right? Because let's say you were a dual income family, right? You have a kid, right? You're not going to want to go to a place that doesn't have like really nice elementary schools, or that's not really safe, or that doesn't have a big yard, right? But for a person who doesn't have kids, who's a single male, I don't care about a nice elementary school. Yeah. I don't care about having a big yard. I don't have a dog that's going to play there. I care about rental income. Yeah. That's the only thing that matters to me. Yeah. And closeness to work, right? And closeness to downtown. And so that ended up being the best choice. And then, over the years, after that, I see like, okay, 4-story apartment building complex goes up here. 5-story apartment complex goes up right here. Right next to me, the Sun Garden Shopping Center. So you see all these businesses grow, because you know that they're going to grow from the downtown area. Yeah. So then you see all these construction and growth, and these other things come in. The police kind of steps up and cleans it up and makes it different. And now it seems like a great, nice neighborhood just 4 or 5 years later. Well, now at this point, I guess it's 6 years later. Yeah. But 6 years later, you can't even recognize the place as in the neighborhood, but it still has that barrio vibe. Yeah. Great Latino neighborhood. And but yeah, so that's what you have to look for. Don't look for a saturated market. Look for some places that's going to come up.
Next up, Victor Tapia, better known as the Goshfather, DJ and music producer.
I just know if I show up every day, I'm going to win. I already did it once. Yeah. Period. So what I was telling my homie, his name's Alessi, by the way, I'll shout him out. My new mindset is, dude, when I wake up in the morning, I have 0 followers. I have 0 supporters. I have 0 music. I have 0 content. And I like that thing. Yeah. I have nothing, and that humbles me. Mm-hmm. It reminds me I don't fucking know anything. Yeah. So that means the minute I find out a thing, that means I've learned something that day. Even on my shittiest day, because I'm a human, depressed, my shit sucks, I'm falling in the trap of looking at my analytics. It doesn't matter, because when you're a cockroach, when you have 0, 100 views is the promised land. 10 views when you're nobody means 9 people accidentally stumbled on your shit, and it was just you and in your mind conceiving something. So that is how I approach every single thing. So to answer your question, how does somebody blow up? You have to be relentless in not asking for fucking feedback. I'm sorry, I know this is like a hot take. Do not ask your friends and family for anything. And if you're an entrepreneur too, I have entrepreneur friends right now that I try to tell them, hey, you're trying to build an app, you're trying to get VC funding, you're trying to do all this stuff. Because during COVID, just like a lot of people in the music industry, I got into like the NFT Web3 kind of tech. Really, too. I actually had a lot of success in that as well. Okay. But I, ended up keeping a lot of friends and contacts from that, and I see them now post everything now. Lockdown's over, trying to start things, and I kind of tell them, dude, you gotta have cockroach ass mentality. You have no money. You don't know anybody mentality, because as a person do when they have nobody, you better start fucking picking up the phone proverbially. AKA DMing people. Like your life depends on it.
Next up, Maxx Holdrieth, CEO and founder of Truve, an all-natural, plant-based energy tea. If there's one entrepreneurial life hack that you've come up with that's like against the mainstream belief, that's unique to you, a lesson learned, so to say, that you can share with the audience, for people who are trying to build something, entrepreneurs, who have that type of mindset, what would you say that is?
Yeah, that is tough. I think for one, probably be okay working alone. And make an effort, if you're someone who is extroverted, to have a life outside of the business to balance out the fact that you're going to have to do a lot of work alone. And the other one, it goes into like my experience being like a flow state coach. I actually did this entire like program through a guy named Stephen Kohler, who, if your audience is listening into entrepreneurship, they should totally check him out. One of the godfathers of flow state. And I think that the other thing is recognizing that in entrepreneurship, if you believe that the entrepreneurship is an infinite game, meaning that like the only way to lose is to stop playing the game.
Yeah.
Then you automatically win as long as you just stay in the game long enough. And in order to stay in the game long enough, though, you need to take strategic periods of rest. Right. So burnout is so common. And it's not just physically and mentally, like it's just a thing when you're working all the time and you all of a sudden you have no friends, you have nothing to do. You become really lonely. And those things cause people to drop out of the game a lot more than, hey, you know what? Maybe be aware of the fact you've been pushing really hard. You still want to push one day, but there's great discipline in taking a day off when you don't necessarily want to, with the foresight knowing that it's going to allow you to push harder in the weeks to come. So I think having the discipline around like resting from work is extremely important.
Next up, Zander Kingsley, artist, founder of 5 Cent Art, Kingsley Design Group, and Vasi.
And I'm sitting on my back deck with my buddy and business partner, and we're smoking. I'm like, you know, they got food trucks. Why don't they have clothing trucks? And he's like, dude, I don't know. And I was like, we should make one.
Yeah.
And he was like, that's a good idea. And so the next day we woke up and we're like, wait, I know that was a high idea, but that's a good idea. And so we're like, but how do we do this? We're both broke college kids. I was like, well, what about Kickstarter? And so we ran a Kickstarter and raised 10 grand in 20 days, and ended up buying a school bus and gutted that out.
Really? A school bus?
37 foot. I won the bid. It was from the Mississippi School District. I bought it like county auction. And I won the bid by $1. It was $2,501.
Wow.
And then we used the other 7 grand to get it to where we gutted it out, had bunk beds in the back, and then like a full lobby couch area in the front.
Really?
It was like a whole storefront. And,
wow.
And so we just got in it and drove up the East Coast.
Next up, Jazmin Nikole, singer, actress, model, and personal trainer. If you could share what you think your purpose is in pursuing these goals, in being an entertainer, being a performer, being a musician, is there a way that you can describe that? Do you have a strong understanding of what that is?
Yes. It's hard to put into like limited words, but I would say that I really believe that I'm supposed to be a voice for this generation and the culture that we're currently living in. I think that I want to be a role model and almost like a big sis, you know, to like, I feel called to the youth for sure. Like, I mean, I feel like they're my people that I want to talk to, right? Help them avoid the same mistakes that I made, you know, in my life. And we didn't really touch on like the things that I've been through, but I feel like I've overcome actually a lot of things in my life, a lot of just things I've experienced. And so out of those places, I want to be able to bring raw music that can truly connect to people and heal them. I really believe my music will bring healing. It will bring restoration to people's like broken hearts, and also give them hope and inspiration to continue to chase whatever it is that they feel is their purpose. And like, what were you made to do? Like, you know, that's, I mean, if you could do it, you know, what would you chase after? Like, I think, and I'm also very much about like empowering women to step into their identity, step into their confidence, into their femininity, and to really own who they are and not have to compromise with the world standards of, oh, I have to like sell my body to make it. No, you don't. You know, and I want to be an example of what that looks like. Like, no, I'm not gonna sell myself short in that way. Like, yes, you can, I don't know, I just feel like there are actually several messages that I want to highlight and several things on my heart that I want to sing about. And, you know, because music is so universal and really it crosses all cultural boundaries. And it just speaks so loudly that people will receive it. They won't receive it from a pulpit. They won't receive it from, you know, but they will receive it in a song.
Thanks for listening. Stay tuned for part 2. Bye, everybody. Thank you for joining our conversation today on the Nichols and Dimes Show. Please check out and follow my podcast Instagram at nicholsanddimezshow. I'd love to have you subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or YouTube. You can also find it on my website. I welcome and encourage any feedback you can share in the reviews so I can continue to improve and develop the show. Thanks again, and see you next time.